Let me tell you about a man I know. He spent 35 years building something most people only dream about. A successful business. A beautiful home. A family that never went without. His name was respected in every room he walked into. People asked for his advice. His opinion carried weight. He was, by every measure the world uses, a success. And then one Tuesday morning, 3 months after his retirement party, he sat at his kitchen table, coffee going cold in front of him, and thought. Not in an ungrateful way, not in a dramatic way. Just quietly. Honestly. Is this really it? My name is Gray. And that man was me. What I'm about to talk about today is something I have never heard discussed openly. Not at dinner tables, not between old friends. Not even between husbands and wives. But I believe, if you're watching this, part of you already knows exactly what I'm talking about. For most of my adult life, I was my job. I don't mean that as a complaint. I chose it. I was proud of it. I was the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I missed school plays. I missed anniversaries. I missed slow Sunday mornings. And I told myself, this is what a good man does. He provides. He pushes. He builds. My identity was sewn so tightly into my career that I genuinely could not tell where the job ended and I began. Ask me who I was at 45, and I would have told you my title. Ask me what I valued, and I would have listed my accomplishments. Ask me what made me happy, and honestly, because I had never really asked myself that question, there was always another quarter to finish, another deal to close, another mountain to climb. And then, retirement came, and the mountain disappeared overnight. The emails stopped, the meetings vanished. The phone that used to buzz every 20 minutes went completely silent. And for the first time in 4 decades, nobody needed anything from me. I thought I would feel relieved. Instead, I felt invisible. Here is the thing about success that nobody warns you about. The very qualities that make a man successful, the drive, the discipline, the ability to push feelings aside and get the job done. Those same qualities become a prison the moment the job is gone. Because everything I had built outward. The career was outward. The money was outward. The reputation was outward. I had spent 40 years being validated from the outside, and I had absolutely no idea how to feel okay from the inside. When the external world stopped reflecting my value back at me, I discovered something terrifying. I didn't know who I was without it. Not because I was shallow, not because I was weak, but because I had simply never had the time or the permission to find out. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it identity foreclosure. It happens when a person commits so completely to one role, in our case, the provider, the achiever, the strong one, that they never go through the process of asking deeper questions about who they are. Most young people experiment. They try different things. They change direction. But many men of our generation were handed a script very early. Work hard, provide, don't complain, be strong. And we followed that script so faithfully, we never wrote a single page of our own. Research consistently shows that men who tie their identity heavily to professional achievement face significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, and loss of purpose in the years immediately following retirement. Not men who failed. Not men who struggled financially. Men who succeeded. Men who won by every measure the world gave them. And the cruelest part of this, the harder you worked, the more you sacrificed, the more completely you gave yourself to the role. The more devastating the silence becomes when that role is taken away. Because you didn't just lose a job, you lost the only version of yourself you had ever really known. Now here is where it gets complicated. Because men like us, we were not raised to sit with uncomfortable feelings. So when this hollow, directionless sadness arrives, we do what we have always done. We get busy, we renovate the garage, we take up golf, we volunteer for things we don't care about just to have somewhere to be. We sit at family dinners smiling at the right moments, while somewhere underneath, something quiet is asking to be heard. We tell our wives we're fine. We tell our old colleagues we're loving retirement. We post photos of grandchildren and garden projects, that we miss feeling like we matter, that we miss having a reason to get up with urgency, that we are grieving something we cannot even name properly. And ungrateful is the one thing a self-made man refuses to be. So the sadness sits there, quietly, patiently, waiting for us to be honest enough to look at it. I remember the exact moment something shifted for me. It was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. I had run out of things to fix around the house. The garage was already renovated twice. I went for a walk, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do with myself. I ended up on a bench in a park near our house, and instead of pulling out my phone, I just sat. I watched a young father pushing a pram, an old couple walking slowly, hand in hand, a group of pigeons arguing over a piece of bread, and in that completely ordinary moment, a question arrived, one I had never let myself ask before. Not what should I be doing, not what do people need from me, but what do I actually enjoy? Not what impresses anyone. Not what produces anything, just what makes me feel alive. I sat with that question for a long time, and I realized I didn't know the answer. And that was the most important thing I had learned in years. The secret sadness of successful men after 60 is not a character flaw, it is not ingratitude, it is not weakness. It is not a midlife crisis that arrived 20 years late. It is the completely predictable result of spending a lifetime building outward, and never once turning the attention inward. We cared for our careers, we cared for our families, we cared for our finances, we forgot to care for the human being who was doing all that caring. And now, with the noise of the working world finally gone, that human being is standing in the silence, asking a simple question. Who am I, when I am not being useful to anyone? That question feels threatening at first, but I have come to believe it is actually the most generous question life ever asks us, because it is an invitation to finally, after all these years, begin. So what do you actually do with this? I am not going to give you a 5-step plan, because this is not that kind of problem, but I will tell you what helped me. The first thing was simply admitting it. Not to the world, just to myself. That single act of honesty, after a lifetime of powering through, was more courageous than anything I did in business. The second thing was getting genuinely curious about myself. Not in a self-help way, just the way you might get curious about a person you want to know better. What do I actually like? What bores me? What makes an hour feel like 5 minutes? I started writing things down. Small things. Observations. Some days just one sentence. But slowly, a person started to emerge from the pages. A person I recognized, but had never properly met. And the third thing was finding at least one other man willing to be honest. Not to fix each other. Not to give advice. Just to say, me too. You would be surprised how much that matters. The most successful thing I have ever done. In 63 years of living, in 4 decades of working, in everything I built and earned and achieved, was not the career. It was one quiet Wednesday morning on a park bench, when I finally stopped running for myself, and sat still long enough to say hello. If any part of this felt familiar, please leave a comment below. Not because I have answers. I am still finding them myself, but because you should know, you are not alone in this. This feeling that you cannot quite name. This quiet that feels too loud. Other men feel it too. Good men. Strong men. Men who did everything right. I am gray. And this is the quiet 60s. Where we talk about the things men in their 60s actually think about, but rarely say out loud. If that sounds like something you need, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.